Welcome to From Center Ice. My name is Courtney, and let's talk about the IceHogs. This team has played 3 games, and in 3 games they have lost. That's a lot of fun, isn't it? Not really. Thankfully, on Saturday they did go to overtime, so they picked up a point in the standings, which is different from what they've done otherwise. This time they did not play the Chicago Wolves, they played the Iowa Wild, so it was nice seeing a brand new opponent, but of course, this evening's game is against the Chicago Wolves. Once again, that is 3 games against the Wolves in about a week and a half. That is way too much. Thankfully, after this, we don't see them again until March unless the AHL decides that it wants to add more games to our schedule again for no real reason. So let's go over the 3 questions that I had for Saturday night's game to talk about how that game went down. Question number 1. Can the IceHogs have a non-disastrous second period? Well, I guess that kind of depends on what you classify as disastrous. The IceHogs took a 2-0 lead into the first intermission. They finally held a lead for a period. That's also a first for this season. It is the season of firsts. And then in the second period, once again, it came to bite them in the butt, and the Iowa Wild tied the game at 2. So maybe it wasn't as disastrous as some of the second periods we've seen so far this year, but they did end up allowing 2 goals, which tied the game, which forced it to go to overtime because no goals were scored in the third period, because why would that be a thing? So in this case, I'm gonna go no, they couldn't have a non-disastrous second period. Yes, it's only 2 goals, but those 2 goals tied the game, let it go to overtime where they lost. I had so much hope for them. Once it finally went to overtime, I was thinking maybe they would finally win this one, but no. Matt Tompkins did stop a penalty shot in overtime, only to get scored on, I believe it was the next shift or the one right after. It was very quick after that penalty shot, either way. And it was one that Tompkins probably wants to have back. Is this not a frustrating start to the season? They've played 3 games, they've gone winless in those 3 games, and then they finally get it to overtime. Tompkins comes up with a huge stop, and then right after that, just a floater goes in the net, and the IceHogs lose. You just have to shake your head sometimes. The good thing about Saturday was if you flipped over to the Blackhawks game afterward, they won in overtime. It was rather interesting how these 2 games were almost mirroring each other. They got scored on at nearly the same time. It was a few minutes apart. There was a fight in both games, and both games went to overtime. Where they differed was the Blackhawks won and the IceHogs lost once again. I can't wait until they get their first win. Can it please be tonight against the Wolves? Oh, it would be so beautiful to get our first win against the Wolves. Not gonna hold my breath, but I can be hopeful. But not too hopeful, because then that means they can hurt me. Question number 2. Will they have sustained offensive zone pressure? I'll tell you one thing, they definitely looked better in this game than they did in the previous 2. They had 30 shots on goal, 12 in the first period, and then 8, 8, and 2. Sure, maybe you want to see them have more shots in overtime. Iowa had 6. And Iowa also had 18 in the second period. Because second periods! I get it is the period of the long change, but every team has to deal with this. Why is it so disastrous for the IceHogs? Consistently, year after year after year, the second periods always suck. I just don't understand. Anyway, they looked better offensively. They were getting some good offensive zone pressure. Of course, it only really amounted to anything in the first period, which was when they got their only 2 goals of the game, but it's progress. Question number 3. Will the power play get back on track? Nope! The IceHogs did only have 2 power plays on Saturday, but they went 0 for 2, and after going 3 for 3 in their first 3 power plays of the season, ever since then, they have looked very bad. So I don't know if those first 3 were a fluke or if they just got complacent thinking they would automatically score. I'm not really sure what happened. But regardless of what did happen, I'm gonna need them to get back on track, because losing the special teams battle is not going to get you very far. Speaking of special teams, here is a good tidbit. Iowa went 0 for 4 on the power play on Saturday. That means that the IceHogs successfully killed 4 penalties. So there's a positive. And while it's really good to not have pucks go into the back of your net, it is way more more beneficial to put the pucks in the back of the other net. Even if your goalie doesn't allow any goals throughout the whole game, you also cannot win if you do not score. It would just be an endless shootout, and it would go on for days. I don't even know when they would call it. You'd think they'd have to call it at some point, but I don't know how they even would. I wonder what they would do. That's very interesting. You'd think somebody would have to score eventually. The goalies would get tired. But now I just kind of want to see an hours-long shootout, just because. Except not for my team, because that would be very stressful, and the IceHogs would probably lose. Because that's the trend of the season. So that game is over. They lost to Iowa just like they lost to the Chicago Wolves in the first 2 games of the season. Now they move on to the 3rd game against the Wolves, which is tonight at the BMO Harris Bank Center. Puck drop is at 6 p.m. Central Time. So let's jump into my questions for this game. Question 1, can the IceHogs win a game? We'll see. Question 2, can they outscore their opponent in the 2nd period? This might be asking more than the first question. I feel like they will win a game before they outscore their opponent in the 2nd period. I would love it if they did both in the same game. I would love it even more if that game was tonight. Because there's nothing that I love more about the IceHogs than them beating the Wolves, like I've said before, and I will say again because it is very true. There's just something about beating your rival that is so delicious. They just haven't done that yet this season. Question 3, do we see a different goalie in net? So far, we've only seen Matt Tompkins and Scott Darling. Tompkins played game 1, Darling played game 2, and Matt Tompkins was back in net on Saturday. Of course, the IceHogs have 4 goaltenders. We have a 4 goalie rotation, which is just ridiculous. And with the team not having won a game so far, why not give one of those guys a shot? I mean, what could you really lose? You're already winless. Maybe they will come out and surprise, just like Kevin Lankinen did in Chicago. You just never know. I would love to see one of these other guys get a chance. I want to see how they play. I want to see how they look in the AHL. It would be a lot of fun, even if they lose. I just like fun, okay? And if, God forbid, we lose to the Chicago Wolves again, I need some sort of fun in my life tonight. So, seeing a rookie goaltender would certainly be that. So it probably won't happen. So those are my 3 questions for tonight's game against the Chicago Wolves. Do you think the IceHogs are going to win? Are they finally going to win a game this season? I would love to know your thoughts. I would love to know your score predictions. Who do you think is going to score goals for the IceHogs? Just leave all of that in the comments below. And if you want to see more from me or more from Center Ice, you can subscribe to this channel for Blackhawks and IceHogs goodness. You can also head over to FromCenterIce.com, check out game previews for the Blackhawks and post-game recaps for the IceHogs and a bunch of other goodies in between. You can also keep up with the latest podcast episodes over there. And if you're a social media kind of person, you can follow us on all the social media places. Those are all linked in the description down below. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Let's hope for a better game tonight, a better outcome, an IceHogs win, and I'll catch you after this one to see how it went. Bye, guys. Thank you all for watching. Please hit that subscribe button to catch more From Center Ice content. If you could, hit the like button on this video, maybe share it with a friend or two. And while you're here, check out the podcast playlist and catch up on some old episodes. We will catch y'all next time. Bye!